Well, I certainly hope you enjoyed that last segment. To a certain extent, it's kind of sad that we need someone or have someone teaching civility to our legislators, but I think it is a problem that legislators need to learn how to work better together, and I congratulate Ted Celeste again on his efforts, and hopefully they'll accomplish something. This next segment is not a news at all. In fact, this next segment is just confirming something we've known and talk about all the time, and that's the polarization in our political world. At the start of every show, we talk about dysfunction and polarization, and sometimes I think most of the shows is talking about dysfunction, not polarization per se. For those of you that have seen a few of the previous shows, I've started to get on a demographic bent, and I've been looking at statistics, and one of my favorite places for statistics has become Pew Research. So the other day when I was online, I noticed that Pew Research now has some statistics available demonstrating the polarization in our political world. So we all know our political world is polarized, but I thought it would be interesting to take a look at some of the statistics that Pew has come up with that confirm this, and maybe importantly, some of the subtleties of those statistics and some of the shifts that are indicated by those statistics. And I also want to warn you in advance that I've done something I shouldn't do. I have actually just read the cheat sheet from Pew, and I haven't read the whole study, so I think the cheat sheet's going to be enough to get us through the Pew Research. But if it doesn't, I think you'll find out in the homework assignment today we're going to get there. So anyway, let's take a look at the board. So again, we have Pew Research, and this is on polarization. And one of the interesting things they've found is that, and follow me on this, the share of consistently conservative and liberal opinionated people has doubled over the past 2 decades. So it's gone from 10% to 21%. Now again, my take on this is that if you are a hardcore liberal or a hardcore Democrat, you're just not going anywhere past that position. That's now doubled in the last decade. I don't know if 21% is in and of itself a significant number, but maybe the fact that there's been a doubling shows you this shift, shows you this developing polarization. But what Pew does is they've gone further, and I wanted to put the graphs on a board and show you the graphs. It just didn't work out, so you'll have to visualize with me when we go through this next round of statistics. But what they did is they compared the median Republican and the median Democrat to the reverse in the other party. So in this case, a median Republican is now 90% more conservative than a Democrat. I don't know how they define Democrat or Republican, but that's a pretty strong statistic to say that someone is 94% more anything than anybody else. So in this case, the conservative Republican is 94% more so than a typical Democrat. And conversely, I think you'd expect this to be the case. Now the median Democrat is 92% more liberal than a Republican. So there's your polarization right there. We are very far apart, 94% and 92%, which I think means that people aren't listening to each other, which I think means dysfunction. Another fact that, which is probably the converse of this, by the way, deals with tolerance. In other words, how tolerant are the two parties of each other? So what Pew found is that 27% of the Democrats see Republicans as a threat to the nation's well-being. They just don't like their opinions. They dislike their opinions so much they think they are a threat to the nation's well-being. And then similarly, you have 36% of the Republicans see Democrats as a threat to the nation's well-being. So again, this is just polarization smack in your face and telling you that the people don't share opinions and they don't listen to each other. And now you have a statistic that suggests that the other party's opinions are actually a threat to the nation's well-being. I don't know how you can get more polarized than that. And then we have another interesting tidbit that I want to borrow from in terms of who people are hanging out with. So in this case, conservatives are hanging out with their buddies pretty much 63% of the time. If you're a conservative, the people you hang out with are conservative. They're sharing your opinion, your conservative opinions, 63% of the time. Liberals, 49% of the time. And I guess that's right around 50%, and maybe what I thought would be what a percentage should be, half and half, 50-50. But it turns out that 35% of the public at large tell Pew that they hang out with people that share their opinions, which means the public at large, 65% of the people they hang out with don't share their opinions. So maybe that's the 35% that's in the middle. I don't exactly know. But if you, and Pew in their research report called the silos, if you're only hanging around with people that are sharing your opinions and you're not getting contrary opinions, maybe that's also leading to polarization. This is one of the reasons I've suggested you should broaden your reading, what you listen to, what you watch on TV. Just broaden it to get the other perspective. You don't have to agree with the other perspective, but you should listen to the other perspective. And then finally, in terms of polarization again, the ideologically oriented, in other words, these consistently conservative and consistently liberal, they are the most active members of the political system. So they are the ones that are voting. They are the ones that are taking part in the political process. The independents are less so. And this is another where you're going to get skewing and polarization. And again, this is where you're going to get these really interesting and sometimes perverse results in ballot measures and midterm elections and things like that. So take a look at the Pew study. I thought it was very interesting. Again, it confirms what we all know, but sometimes seeing where the statistics come from and understanding the underlying statistics will just help you gain a perspective on what's going on in politics today.